Hey, wrestling fans. Welcome to another episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic for Wednesday, December 9th, 2020. I'm your host, Lance Brock, right here on YouTube live stream right now. Also, thank you if you're listening to the audio podcast on the great Anchor.fm website or Anchor app. It's a great way. If you listen to the audio podcast, you hear the ad for Anchor at the beginning. And like I say in the ad, Anchor is the best, easiest way to do a podcast. It's what I use for the 360 Wrestling podcast. So if you're thinking about starting your own podcast, you should definitely use Anchor. So go to anchor.fm or download the free Anchor app. Start your podcast now for free. And today's episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic, I just want to start off. I have a regret, unfortunately. Last week was so caught up with the news, Sting debuting in AEW, Kenny Omega becoming the new AEW World Champion, that I forgot to mention the sad news last Wednesday, and that was the passing of Pat Patterson, a legend in the pro wrestling business, the first ever Intercontinental Champion, the man who came up with the idea of the Royal Rumble, and who I've heard a lot of people say he was the best guy for coming up with finishes for matches, and heard the stories about before they had all the writers and everything in WWE. The creative was Vince and Pat, just sitting out by Vince's pool coming up with storylines. So he will definitely be missed in the world of pro wrestling. Very sad news. But there was a great tribute video on NXT, Raw, and SmackDown in the past week. And rest in peace, Pat Patterson. Now let's get into tonight's episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. I'm going to start off by covering last night's episode of Impact Wrestling and recap it real quick. Chris Sabin, one half of the Motor City Machine Guns, defeats one half of the North, Josh Alexander, in a pretty good match. Brian Myers defeated TJP. The world-class maniac Eric Young defeats Cody Deaner. And then after the match, Young and Joe Doring attack the Deaners, Cody and Cousin Jake. And then Rhino is out to the ring to make the save. A match in the Knockouts Tag Team Championship Tournament is next, as Rosemary and